Am I audible?
Sujit, be loud. Sujit, be loud. We were unable to listen to you. Sujit, can you be little loud?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, Sujit, can you be little loud, please?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Am I audible, ma'am?
You are audible. Be little, increase your voice. Okay. Go ahead with your class. It's almost 10 minutes, right? 4:45. Go ahead with your class, Sujit.
Okay, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sujit. Start your class. Start your class, Sujit.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Little problem with the internet connection. Okay, ma'am. I'll be starting. Yeah, good evening all. Sorry for the little disturbance around here.
Good evening, sir. Still your voice is breaking, sir.
Yeah, yes. 1 minute on. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, but just your voice is stringing.
Yeah, actually, I'm mm, in AP, Andhra Pradesh. So from yesterday, we had a power cut. So no current here. It's okay. Am I audible now? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, last class we completed 2 blocks. Sorry, first block. We'll be starting the second block. Today we will be completing second block and third block. Okay. So actually, I thought of using PPT also due to network issues. I'll be sharing the PPT, respective coordinator. So he will be sharing. Okay with you all?
All right, sir.
Yeah. Okay. If possible, I will be using PPT also. Let's see. Okay. We'll move into the class. So the block number 2 is language learning process. So every human being has an innate ability to learn a language, right?
Sujit, don't you have a PPT with you?
Hello.
Sujit, don't you have PPT with you? Are you not sharing the PPT?
Am I audible, right?
Yes, you are very much audible to us. Are you sharing PPT with the students?
Ma'am,
Are you sharing PPT with the students?
I will share, ma'am.
Are you not
Yeah,
logging
yes,
in with your
ma'am.
laptop? Sujit, be loud, be loud. Sujit, go ahead with your class. Sujit, are you there? Sujit, are you there? Yes, go ahead with your class. Go ahead with your class.
Actually, no, ma'am, because there is a power cut issue in my place. Yeah, yes, I'm here, ma'am. Yeah, yeah, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So we will be looking into the language learning process. So there are 3 steps involved in language learning process. Okay. Hello all. Yeah, hello. So sorry, students. There were so many issues. Oh, okay. We'll continue with our class. Am I audible, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for bearing. Like half an hour, it's over. Okay, we'll start with the language learning process. Language learning. All human beings has the ability to learn a language, at least one language, right? So learning language, it's a process for a lifetime. So learning is itself a process, right? So language learning process, it has three substreams, mainly the language learning faculty. So the language learning faculty is nothing but the whole humans have the innate ability to learn at least one language. So the person from the birth to death, he will be able to communicate at least in one language, right? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So the second substream is the act or expression where we feel the language learning occurring. So it is like language will be developed until we are exposed or we are heard. The third one is motivation. Motivation is actual communication needs. What people motivates us. So how the people get motivates for language learning. There are two types of motivations. First is intrinsic motivation, and the second is instrumental motivation. Intrinsic motivation is nothing but like we wish to learn a language, like for example, songs, right? Songs. We like the song, so we learn the lyrics and we try to sing along with that song, right? Original one. This is the intrinsic motivation. The motivation comes uh, upon the interest. The second way is instrumental motivation. We learn a language because we need to get a job, right? To visit a country or for a specific purpose. This is instrumental motivation. Like we are striving for something out of that. So we will get motivated to learn a language. For example, nowadays, English, not only English, other than English, there are many other foreign languages. People choose to go, if they wanted to go to France, for example, so they will be learning French, right? So this is instrumental motivation. We'll move to factors affecting motivation. I can share a screen. So okay, no problem. So what are the factors affecting motivation? So language learning, because it is prescribed, but not for our own learning thing. So we learn a language. People in elementary schools or in secondary schools, the learners what they will do, the language or the syllabus that is prescribed. So they will learn, not for their sake. It is the factor that is affecting motivation. And second one is, if language is not spoken at home or classroom and in society, it is difficult to learn, right? So the language learning is not at all happening when we are in alone, like when there is no scope to speak, when there is no scope to communicate. So language learning happens if there is a persons who will be communicating with us at home or in classroom or in society. So this is one of the factor that affects motivation. These factors mainly we will see in rural areas compared to urban areas, right? So the third one is the textbooks. So if the textbooks is not attractive, children find it hard to learn, right? And the attitude of teachers. Sometimes the teachers behave some harshly on the learners, or there are so many assignments or something. and students who specifically don't like a teacher, that intends the show, that's a vice versa. It then shows on the syllabus also, right? The subject also. So this is also one of the factors that affects motivation. The other factor is authenticity. So the learner, he connects the classroom with the real world situations. If the real world situations is like more interesting than the classroom situations, then automatically it will affect the classroom learning. We move to contemporaneity, which is like if the learner is familiar with the culture, so those times the cultures matters for the learners also. If the culture is different from the classroom culture, then it will definitely affect on learners learning a language. We move to attitude and aptitude. Attitude, if one language suffices a person's individual needs, you do not need to learn a second language, right? So is sufficient, is enough for the first language itself. So first language itself is doing all the needs for the learner. Then he don't wanted to learn a second language. Why he learned second language? Because the first language is not at all enough for his primary needs or a secondary needs. That is the attitude of the learner. We move to aptitude. So aptitude is like it is a positively inclined to learning languages. So learning a language, we have to have a positive response from the learners also. So if there is no positive response from the learner, it will definitely affect his or her learning motivation. The third one is acculturation. Acculturation is nothing but the closure, the identification with the target language. So it is like acculturation in the sociology also, like the culture what I was speaking about, the contemporaneity. So it is same as contemporaneity also. Acculturation, it is different. If the classroom learning culture is different from the society's culture, then it will affect the learners. We will move to next, memory. Memory is integral part to all learning, right? Hello, are you with me, students?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So
Sir.
okay. Yeah. So memory means from the childhood onwards, like the child when he grows up in a like when the child comes to the stage where he will be watching the things, and he'll be calling the thing with his own name, right? So the language learning involves firstly naming objects. So first they will name the objects. Here we see two kinds, like signifier and signified. Signifier is the word what it relates to the object. So signifier is the word. Suppose for example, if there is a cat, so cat is a signifier, and what is signified is the object, the actual object. So if he sees an animal, then he names it as a cat. Then he sees another animals with the four legs, he names it also cat. So the memory is involves in two. There is an association with signifier and signified. So if the both signifier and signified correlates, then only there is a memory happening. Next is understanding the rules of a language and applying them. So basically, the child will adopt a language skills when there is a correlation between signifier and signified. Then he moves to the understanding the rules of a language, which is syntax or grammar, and he instinctively compare the known language with the unknown language, right? So Noam Chomsky, he calls this as an universal grammar. Universal grammar is like familiarizing the words. Like every language possesses a unique, uh, every language is unique, but there are some common perspectives in the language that are common to all the languages around the world. That is what the Noam Chomsky says. So familiarizing the words of non-language with unknown language. For example, Telugu, if there is a name called Akasham. Akasham is a nothing, it resembles sky. So he resembles the word Akasham to the sky, right? So he will be thinking first in his own mother tongue language, then he resembles the target language that is to be learned. So he correlates this Akasham with the sky. So next he moved to similar structures, patterns of two languages, and he will be which are to be compared and which are to be contrasted. He will be comparing the things, and he will sometimes it happens to contrasting also. So language is learned not only isolated. So isolated words does not make sense, right? So language is learned not as an isolated words, but as a chains or phrases. So communication at last is important than mere learning of words or a grammatical things. This is what the memory we see. Next, we move to language learning principles. So the main objectives of the language learning principles are the principles of language system, the principles of language learning. Language is nothing only not only a form, and it is also skill. Every language has a form that is universal. Uh, we were talking about Noam Chomsky, where all the language has some familiarities in them. So each language has forms that are universal. For example, in Telugu we have tenses, and English also we have tenses, and there is a numbers in Telugu language, and also in English we have numbers. So these some familiar patterns will be there in the form as well. Each language has its own specific typological properties. So when like we see the word order in the English, it is like subject plus verb plus object. But while coming to Telugu, it is object plus subject plus verb. So there is a difference between the structures between two languages. So each language has its own specific typological properties. Then we move to spoken form. The spoken form of a language is not connected to the written form of a language in English, right? So there are certain words like psychology. We pronounce it as psychology, but writing, the written form is like this. There is a spelling different. Like it will start with P, right? So psychology, the spoken form is not related to the written form. But in Telugu, the spoken form is related to written form as well. But English is not like that. English is different. We go to inflections. Inflections is nothing but the changes in word forms to indicate tense, numbers, etc. So there is each pattern. We were discussing about the patterns in English and in Telugu. So language learning involves familiarity with the forms of particular language that are used to convey meaning, which it is the ultimate function of a language. Okay, we move to language learning as a verbal behavior. So while when you are studying in B.Ed or D.Ed, you will be coming up across so many methods and approaches, right? So we already learned about behaviorism. So the verbal behavior is firstly used by B.F. Skinner. In in his verbal behavior, he says that language is essentially habit formation, and it is achieved through repetition. So what B.F. Skinner says is it is the habit formation. It's not like it's not suddenly happening. It is like repetition. Language learning happens when the child pronounces it, repeats it daily, uses it in his daily life, and he uses it and connects with the real world situations. So B.F. Skinner, what it says is that there is a verbal behavior in language learning. We move to language as communication. So communication, what happens? There is an intended meaning and the meaning that is conveyed. So there is a semantics and pragmatics. So intention meaning communication not only happen in verbal communication, but there is a normal non-verbal communication also. So both these communications happens a whole form of a communication. So intention and the meaning that are both should be related in the communication. Form is not achieved along without communication. So form is nothing without there is a practice or the use of a language. We were talking about semantics and pragmatics. So suppose there is an example: water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. It is the phrase from the rhyme of ancient mariner. So he speaks like this: water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. So what you understood? Hello, are you with me, students?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Uh, eh, water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. What do you understand with this phrase, with this line? Okay, let it be. I will say close the door. If someone says that close the door, if the teachers tell the students close the door, and the student says yes, ma'am, and he sit down, is there communication happening?
No, sir.
When will be the
Yes, sir.
communication complete?
When the kid
Student was closed the door, then that was a complete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then only communication. There is a purpose for communication, right? So
Yes, sir.
semantics is like it's only the intention, what we like, what the teacher expects, like or the what the it only depends about the speaker, not the listener. But the pragmatism is it discuss about the intended meaning. So here also, water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. It resembles that there is full of water around us, but it is not that water is not used to drink. So it resembles that they are in middle of the sea, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So there is a these things are basics in the communication. So the language is tricky. So where these things come into play? Learning language, there is a fluency is also more important in learning a language, right?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, fluency is more important than accuracy. So what is accuracy?
Learning abilities. It's like enthusiasm, sir.
Enthusiasm. Okay. Uh, what is accurate? Accurate.
Accuracy means correct pronunciation.
Then what is fluency?
ఫ్లూయెన్సీ ఇస్ టాకింగ్ ఎబిలిటీస్. ఫ్లూయెన్సీ అంటే ఇప్పుడు మాట్లాడడం ఏమంటారు, స్పష్టంగా మాట్లాడగలగడం.
Yeah. Then accuracy.
అక్యురసీ అంటే
Accuracy is a pinpoint of the matter.
లైక్ దట్ ఆర్
Yeah. Okay. You can.
మాట్లాడగలగాలి అనుకోవడం సార్, తెలుగులో వచ్చేసి.
Okay. So accuracy is like communicating without error, right? In own words, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And fluency.
Fluency is without a grammatical mistake or a pronunciation.
yes.
Fluency totally relies on pronunciation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. It's appropriateness of a language, right? Accuracy. So, hello.
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yeah. So what we are speaking should be appropriate. Then only the communication will be happening, right?
The meaning should be clear enough to understand one and other
Hmm.
to implement the action correctly.
Okay. 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 In one sense, yeah. It's okay. What you said is, I don't say 100% sure, but it's correct. Okay. That's why many linguistics pointed out that social linguistic competence is more important than linguistic competence. So the language learning not only merely you write and speak. So there should be a social linguistic competence also. Like you should know your learner, right? So you should know the environment. You should know the particular situation, what we are able to, what we are speaking, right? If there is a situation, if there is a funeral situation, and you go and say all that exclamatory marks, uh, uh, like in the funeral situation, if you go and talk about the Mumbai Indians and Rajasthan Royals match, it is not appropriate, right? Hello, are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah. If there is a funeral happening, if I speak about all the surprising things or the yesterday's cricket match things in the funeral, so it is not appropriate, right? So there should be a social linguistic competence also when we are speaking. Okay, next we move to learning as an information processing. When we say when we talk about information and processing, we'll definitely like Chomsky will be comes into the picture when the information and processing. So it is a cognitive view of language. It is information processing and problem solving. It's a cognitive view. So what Skinner said, can you recall?
Sir, would you please come again?
Yeah, what Skinner was talking about language learning. I was speaking about language as information and processing. So Chomsky, he said that the language learning is information and processing and problem solving. Chomsky come came with a deep criticism on Skinner. So I was asking you what Skinner said on language learning. He came up with the verbal behavior, right? Which is habit formation, which is
Yes, sir.
repetition. Yeah,
Hmm.
but Chomsky, he said that it is not repetition or habit formation. It is an information processing. So it happens in the mind. Chomsky says that it happens in the mind. Mind is engaged in meaning and information processing. So he pointed out that whole language is processed in the mind itself. So there is no repetition or habit formation in language learning. Suppose if the child, there is a instances like for example, if a mother will be from South India and the father from the North India, child will be able to learn both Hindi as well as South Indian languages, right? That's what Chomsky said, that it the language learning process happens in the mind, not due to our behavior like habit formation or repetition. It is not habit formation of repetition, but it is all engaged in the mind itself. The mind is the main organ that process the language learning thing. So it is the information and processing. You call language learning as information and processing. Did you get it?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Mm. Next, we move to learning as interaction. So the main purpose for the communication is interaction, right? Interacting with one another. If there is no interaction, then there is no communication happening, right? So Vygotsky, he 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 proposed this view, interactional view. So he gave the principles. Child learns language through interaction. He says, Vygotsky says, child learns language through interaction. So he said about zone proximal development. What behavior is said? Language learning is an habit formation, which is repetition. What cognitive said? It is engagement of mind in problem solving and information processing. But what interaction is said, like what Vygotsky said, that language learning happens through interaction only. So it is not like information and processing. It is not like repetition or habit formation. Language, the language we use every day in our communication for interaction, then only language is developed. He says that language is developed only through interaction. We move to principles of language learning. Language is primarily a means of communication, right? So Halliday, in his functional systematic view, he says that language learning is governed by the principles of noticing, and it is like internalizing the form of language for effective communication. He says that it is a process where form is first learned and then used. First, the person or a child learns the language through, he learns the structure of the language, then he puts them into use into real world communication, for the real world communication. Second language learning is supported by the knowledge of first language. So if the child learns first language, he converts the second language into first language, right? I was telling about the example of sky and akash. So if the sky is a new word for him, if it there is grammar translation method. So that sky, what the teacher says, that he says the meaning of the sky in a mother tongue language. So says he resembles the sky with akasham. So the sky is akasham. He will be his cognitive reflexes when he sees sky. He thinks that it is akasham, and slowly he put into the use the word sky in use. Whenever he was speaking about the sky in the classroom, he will speak not akasham, but he will speak sky only. So the first language knowledge is essential for the second language learning. Psychological functions like motivation, attitude, and aptitude, and memory affects language learning. And one more thing is like language develops only through interaction. It is by Vygotsky. Next, we move to language skills and learning strategies. So, what are receptive language skills? Can anybody say what are receptive language skills? There are 4 skills, right? LSRW. Language is divided into receptive and productive skills. So, what are receptive skills? Listening and reading, right? And what are productive skills? What are productive skills? Speaking and writing. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, you are not responding. That's why I asked you. So, receptive skills are listening and reading. Productive skills are speaking and writing. So, receptive skills precedes productive skills. So, first in the language learning process, first the child listens, then he reads, then only he speaks and writes, right? So, in this skills, comprehension is the first step. Comprehension can be at various levels. So, comprehension is the first step in language skills, adopting language skills. So, comprehensions can be at various levels. First is global. Global is nothing but skimming or reading gist. Skimming, you know, right? Having a glance upon the matter. If you want to read a newspaper, only headlines, right? You do skimming, right? Or reading gist. Second one is factual or referential. Factual is nothing but scanning. Scanning, if you are reading a paragraph and you are asked a questions in that paragraph, what you'll do, you'll not skim. Skimming ability will not be sufficient for these questions. So what you do, scan. You will scan all the paragraph, right? And you will be able to answer the questions. The third one is lexical. Lexical is nothing but prior knowledge of the word or contextual guessing. If you have prior knowledge of something, then only you can comprehend, right? If you don't have a prior knowledge, then you can't comprehend the thing, or you can't even write about the thing. So it is also one of the level in comprehension. The last one is inferential. Inferential is nothing but it is a deep level processing of information going beyond literal meaning. I was speaking about the intended meaning, right? So it is not only about it is a deep level of processing of information. It is going beyond literal meaning, intended meaning, right? Okay, next we move to productive language skills. There are two components in productive language skills. One is additional and second one is linguistic. So in additional, what the speech is like, speech is more spontaneous than writing. So when we write, we think about that particular situation and write. But while speaking, we can't think. We don't have that much time, right? So speech is more spontaneous than writing. Speaking involves two aspects. One is fluency. The second one is accuracy. What we were discussing before, fluency and accuracy. So sub skills in speaking. The sub skills in speaking are planning, organizing, summarizing, clarifying, and illustrating. These are sub skills in speaking. First, if you want to speak about uh, environment? So first we will plan about, we will search all the information. We will plan how to speak. Where is the introduction? What is the things that to put in? So we'll plan. Then we will organize, right? So first, where to put introduction, where to put objectives, where to put conclusion. We'll organize. Then we'll summarize all the things to speak. Then we classify, right? Classify. First, I have to speak this part. First, second, I have to speak this part. Third is the last one is illustrating. Illustrating is nothing but to speak on environment topic. That is a sub skills in speaking. Next, we move to writing. Writing involves fluency and accuracy. Writing also involves fluency and accuracy. What you are writing. So this is called discourse. Discourse in writing. So in discourse, you have cohesion and coherence. You will be come across these words, right? In discourse, cohesion is nothing but grammatical connections. When you write a sentence, you should be beware of the verbs or pronoun, the parts of speech, right? Prepositions, where to put conjunctions. This is grammatical connections. Then we move to coherence. Coherence is nothing but the logical connectedness of ideas. So first we have to discuss about one idea. When you write about when you write an essay, the first part you'll write introduction. So introduction, you'll give the introduction of what you are going to write. The second part you'll just gives the main theme, right? So this is like connecting ideas. If I write like I am uh, I am in my home, I don't want to go to my home. This is like useless communication, right? So there is no coherence, there is no discourse. So every sentence, it should be grammatically correct and it should also like there is a connectedness between ideas. These are sub skills involved in writing. We move to learning strategies. Language has three broad dimensions. The first one is language system. So language is system itself. So it has form and it has structure. So this itself is a system. Language has three broad dimensions. The first one is language system. Second one is communicative purpose and goals. The third one is interpersonal aspects. So there are three strategies in which how to communicate in a language. The first one is cognitive strategies. It will deal with the language system. I was speaking about language system. So language system is nothing but it is a form and structure. Second one is social strategies. Social strategy is nothing but accessing various forms to get across our intentions. So we should be socially aware when we are speaking. It is a social strategy, right? Know your audience, know your environment, know your context. This is a social strategy. Affective strategies. If you want to like inspire learners, accessing various forms that get across our intentions, right? So learning to overcome all psychological functions. This is affective strategy. Affective when you are like speaking about when you are giving a motivational speech, you should affect your speech should be so much effective that it should reach the audience. RL Oxford, he says like this, he provided more classification for the strategies. He classified the strategies into direct and indirect strategies. So first strategy, indirect strategies, memory. In memory, what we'll do, we will create mental linkages, right? First we link the memory with that objective. Then what we'll do, we will apply images and sounds. First we will create a link and then we will apply our images and sounds with that, and then we will review. We will review, and the last what we do is we will employ action. This is a memory strategy. The second one is cognitive strategy. Cognitive strategy is nothing but the first one is practicing. We will practice. Then second one, we will receive and send messages accordingly. First one is practicing. Second one is receiving and sending messages accordingly. The third one is analyzing and reasoning. We will analyze the information and we will give like we will analyze and we will make a draft, right? So the fourth one is creating structure for input and output. So what we are speaking, we will write, and what we are delivering. It's like speaking and delivering. So creating structure for input and output. The third one is compensation strategies. What are compensation strategies? It is like guessing intelligently. And second one is overcoming limitations in speaking and writing. Right? We move to indirect strategies. In indirect strategies, there is metacognitive strategies. So metacognitive strategies starting like this. So centering your learning. So when I want to speak about environment, I'll be searching the matter only on environment, right? I'll be not looking into other aspects. Only I'll be searching for environment related topics only. This is centering your learning. The second one is arranging and planning your learning. So it is what we will arrange and we will plan accordingly. Third one is evaluating your learning. The last one is evaluate. So how far I am able to put forth all the information. How far I am able to communicate with this information. This is evaluating. It is like self-evaluation. In indirect strategies, the second one is affective strategies. Lowering your anxiety, some people like when they were asked to speak, they will be more they will have so much anxiety, like they don't know what they're speaking. So it is like affecting your speaking also. It will affect definitely. So lowering your anxiety. Second one is encouraging yourself. So I can do it. So if you're asked to suddenly speak on this thing or speak on some issue in front of public, what you'll do if your communication should be effective? So you should first take a deep breath, then you'll start your speech, right? Second one is encouraging yourself, and third one is taking your emotional temperature. When you are speaking, your emotion should not matter. So you should control you should be able to balance your emotions also. This is effective strategies. And third one is social strategies. Social strategies is nothing but asking questions, related questions. So cooperating with others. These are social strategies. So you should, when somebody is speaking or when you are in debate, you can't speak alone, right? You can't speak all time. You should give chance to others also. You should cooperate with others. Like when you want to learn a language, people says that listening is more important than speaking. So you should able to listen also. Then only listening is the first skill that will be we can acquire, right? First receptive skill. It is the first skill. So it is a primary skill also. Cooperating with others and empathizing with others. So we should have that empathy with others. Then only we can communicate properly. These are social strategies. Next, any doubts regarding this?
No, sir.
Okay. So what is target language? So Divya ma'am, what is your target language?
Don't know, sir.
So you are learning English, right?
Yes, sir.
So it is your target language.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, the language that you are learning. So that is the second language. Second language is the target language.
Okay, sir.
By this we completed our second block, I think. Oh yeah, second block. Then we move to third block, learning goals and learning means. So Delheims he says like this: there are rules of use without which the rules of grammar would be useless. If the grammatical rules, if the structure is not put into action, then it is useless, right? If I have an idea and I will be storing my idea in my brain itself and I am not using it, it is useless. Unless your idea is proposed and unless you discuss your idea, then only your idea will get emphasis, right? Will be get used, right? So Delheim says like this: there are rules of use without which the rules of grammar would be useless. He says in because he is the one who proposed communicative competence. Communicative competence. He is the one. Delheims is the one who proposed communicative competence. He says that communicative competence is more important than linguistic competence. What is communicative competence? What is competence? Can anybody say what is competence? Competence is ability, right? And the communicative competence is ability to communicate. So most the learners are not able to communicate properly. They have that intention to speak on this thing. They have the intention to speak uh, about particular topic, but when seeing all the audience, they will not speak properly. So Delheim says that communicative competence is more important than linguistic competence. It is not only what you are able to speak, but you have that ability to communicate also. Communication is different from speaking, right? And I am according to Kumara Vadivel also, he says that no one cap can fit all heads. So one cap cannot fit all heads, right? So he says in terms like one approach or method will not be used for all long language learning contexts. In one context, you should be using this method, and in one context, if activity based learning is proposed to the persons who are in higher education, it is not necessary, right? Activity based learning is only intended to elementary learners. It can also be proposed to higher learners also, higher education learners also, but the priority is for elementary level learners. Likewise, according to that situation, according to the needs of the learners, approach can't like you can't keep one approach only. So according to the context, you should use different types of approaches according to the situation, according to the context. So Delheim's emphasizes communicative competence. Communicative competence is nothing but the ability to communicate. In Kumara Vadivelu, he proposed a book. He wrote a book called Beyond Methods in 2003. In Beyond Methods, he says that target levels. So the target levels are levels of language and levels of communication. These both are different. Levels of language is different from levels of communication. Knowing a language doesn't mean speaking a language, right? If you are a teacher, you will teach all the grammatical aspects to the learner, and the learner will learn all the grammatical aspects. Like you will be learning past tense, present tense, all the tenses. You will be learning all the parts of speeches. And if he and you learned all, if the teacher says that you learned all the grammar, now you mastered the language. Now you can go outside and speak. Can it be possible? Can it be possible? No, right? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, knowing a language and putting the language into communication, those both are different aspects. For example, in Indian languages, past time forms are regular, but in English, there are irregular tense forms also, right? So we'll move to consciousness raising. What is consciousness raising? In elementary level, if you teach them to write E or ABCD, they will be writing all the day. They will be writing impositions also. They will be writing for 100 times also. But that is useless, right? They'll be writing all the day also, but it is useless. So without knowing the use of the language, how to use, the structure is not important. The form of a language is not important unless it is used. The same way, consciousness raising means, so the teacher should make the students to aware of grammatical truths, and she or he should also be aware that the students are able to use them cognitively with proper use of form. So form and function, the both are important. Form alone will not uh, is not sufficient. So there should be performance also, like functioning also. This is consciousness raising. Do you have your textbooks with you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there
Yes,
are.
yes.
I think there are different levels given. Did you read?
Page number?
Yeah. Now there is no time, but you can read. Go through when you are free. Page number 108. Page number 108 to page number 111. So there are different types of levels. So level 1 for the beginners, level 2 for somewhat the next stage, level 3 for the secondary school children, and level 4 for upper secondary school children. So what are the levels and how the learners will cope up with these learning strategies? So you can read them, and if you have any doubt, you can ask me in the next class. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Next, we move to classroom procedures. So in classroom, what is the main objective in classroom learning? Nowadays, classrooms are isolated from the real world situations, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How we should improve the objectives like classroom learning? So the teacher, the good teacher, should able to cope up the objectives in the classroom with the real world situations. He or she should create an environment where the learners are able to learn the language not in isolation but into real world situations, right? So classroom is a small society. So the main objectives should be based on learner background. If the learner comes from rural areas, so you should have a different objectives. If a learner comes from the urban areas, you should have a different objectives, and teacher should know the learner needs also. So what are the needs for them? So is there proper needs for them? So are they willing to learn these things? Are they willing to learn those things? Some people, there will be people who are like shy on teachers. There are learners, they are not able to communicate with the teacher also, but they don't know anything, even they don't know basics also. So teacher should put focus on the learner needs, and teacher should also make sure that he should know the status of a language in the society. Suppose for example, if Hyderabad, we can take the Hyderabad as a context. So in Hyderabad there are different types of people. Some people will be from the northern part of Andhra Pradesh. Some people will be from the northern part of Telangana. Some people will be from the western part of Telangana. So all the learners come to Hyderabad for studying. So they're learning their vernacular language. So home language is different from the other people. So a teacher should come across, at least know about their background. So only teacher can able to like deal with all the students in the class, and teacher can able to reach the targets also. So these objectives are related to philosophy of a language and language learning, and or approach of or language learning. So there can be a philosophy of language also. So all the objectives, when teacher is formulating objectives, so you should consider all these things where there is a interstate, interregion, interreligion. So they are coming from the English speaking background or Hindi speaking background, or where they are from Orissa, or some learners will be in the southern parts of India, like Kerala. So all the people will be coming into one classroom. When there is a good school in Hyderabad, all these learners will be sitting in the same classroom. So teacher should know how to formulate objectives. Teacher should formulate the objectives for different groups in different contexts. So knowing your audience, knowing your learners, is the main aspect where the good teacher can look into. So what are the methods and techniques? So last class also we were discussing about methods and techniques. We can't impose one method or one technique, one method in one situation, in all situations. So we should know the context, we should know the situation. I was repeating it so many times. In this class also we're able to come across these things, right? So methods is a very important thing where the teacher should be looking into. It is a overall plan of various activities that should be implemented in the class. That is a method. It is the overall structure of a plan. So actual activities and strategies, these are referred as strategies or techniques. Technique also, like what we are projecting. It is also procedure. It is how teaching is presented, how it is practiced, and how it is evaluated. So these are methods and techniques. We'll be looking into some procedures. One is like role reversal. For example, reading and writing. There are different methods, right? So if you are really interested in linguistics, you can go for Richards and Rogers book. It is approximately like 300 rupees. So it will be available in Amazon, where you can get all the methods and techniques where the English teacher can able to possess. In textbook, some of the methods are given, which is total physical response method, TPR method. It is proposed by Asher. Asher, he says that total physical response method is like when the teacher gives one task. So the student, sometimes he will write, sometimes he will speak. It is not like that. Total physical response is an accumulation of all the things. Like you should be able to do, like you should not able to do one single thing at a time, but it should not be in isolated thing. Learning should be not in isolated thing. Learning should be happening all round development for him. So total physical response is that one, speaking about all round development of a learner. There is a silent way also. There is a suggestopedia. These are some of the methods that are given as examples in other procedures. Next, we move to spoken language. I was speaking about vernacular language, right? What is vernacular language?
Regional languages.
Yeah, regional language. In regional language, you will be like you will be so fluent in your regional language, and you will be accurate in your regional language also. So the target language, it will be not happening, which is second language. So you will be in initial days, you will be like struggling hard to speak a language fluently, or you'll be struggling hard to get that accuracy, right? So in the spoken language also, these two aspects are very important, like fluency and accuracy. So fluency is more important than accuracy. When I think you people went to the typing institute, right? People who went to typing institute, they will know what is accuracy. So they will be asking you should type at least 32 words per minute, right? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. What happened? I am not reaching you properly, or are you not able to understand what I'm speaking?
We are able to understand, sir.
Yeah, I think today people are like dull. I don't know what happened. Yeah, there are some issues in the starting of the class. I am really sorry for that. Okay. Next time I'll look into that.
Not an issue.
Okay. We were discussing about communicative competence by Delhams. So where he emphasized on fluency. He says that fluency is more important than accuracy. But structural and audiolingual principles, structural method and audiolingual methods, they emphasize accuracy, not on fluency. But English learning in India begins with literacy training. First, we were asked to write vocabulary, like initial stage of vocabulary. Teacher will write on the board some words, and we have to write. We have to do imposition. We have to write that word for 5 to 10 times. We have to repeat that word. So English learning in India is different compared to what communicative competence has said, right? So after that, there is a word recognition. First, we were asked to write the words. Then the teacher will tell the meaning of that particular word. It is happening, and we move to pronunciation. There is a problem with Indian pronunciation. So we Indians tend to pronounce words as they are spelled. So, for example, can you can you pronounce that word TOMATO?
Tomato.
Can you pronounce again?
Tomato.
Uh, yeah, but what the native speakers will pronounce is tomato, potato. So there is we think that we will pronounce the words as they are spelled, right? I was speaking about psychology. Psychology is, there is a contradiction between the spelling and what we are speak, what we pronounce, right? So there is a contrast, but there is a problem. Why I am giving this example, because we were asked to write first, then only we will pronounce. First we will be learning the spelling of that word, particular word, then we tend to pronounce that word relating to that spelling. So there is a big mistake in this. So why we were not taught phonetics instead of spellings? This is a question mark, right? So pronunciation in India is like plain. There is no intonation. Hmm. There is no what we say. What we can say is gap width between the sentences. Yeah, these things matter probably. It is because the language is not spoken outside of the classroom. So pronunciation. Yeah, okay, sir. 5 minutes, sir. Please, I can I take 5 more minutes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
sir.
Only, yeah, I'll wind up in 5 minutes because there was a delay in starting a class. Okay, okay. Pronunciation. I was speaking about the pronunciation, right? So while we are pronouncing, there are different factors that affect our pronunciation. That is MTI, mother tongue influence, right? The people of Malayali people, what they'll pronounce auto. They'll pronounce auto, like kerosene. They have the stress on different aspects because of their mother tongue influence. When we see the Orissa and West Bengal people, they will not pronounce sa properly, and va also. Even we as a Telugu speakers, we can't pronounce uva. That is uva, not va, uva. So we pronounce va in the place of va. So there is a mother tongue inference when we are pronouncing English. We already learned about fluency, right? And appropriacy also. Appropriacy is nothing but the appropriateness of a language. So Noam Chomsky talks about the competence and performance. Competence is the ability, and the performance is what you perform. So what you actually put into. And Sassur also speak about lung and parole. Lung is structure of a language. It is a structure of language. Parole is what it is a manifestation in actual use. It is an actual use of a language. So lung and parole, but Noam Chomsky said competence and performance in other words, but both are same. According to Swain, there are three aspects, four components in language learning. First one is grammatical or linguistic competence. Grammatical competence is ability to comprehend, right? Ability to distinguish the structure of a language. And the second one is discourse competence. Discourse competence is able to understand and apply culturally appropriate situations or contexts. So it is ability to understand what the speaker is speaking, and it is ability to apply in a real world situations. And third one is social linguistics competence. Social linguistic competence is ability to understand and use social rules of linguistics. I was telling about the mother tongue inference, and I was talking about the context also. So social linguistics is the ability to use the appropriateness of a language in different contexts. And the fourth one is strategic competence. Strategic competence is nothing but the ability to apply appropriate learning strategies for acquisition of new languages. Okay, so it is based on the fully based on the appropriateness of a strategies. What strategy are you going to impose when you are learning second language, or what strategies are you going to deal with when you are learning is other languages like target languages. The last one is proficiency development. How can you develop a proficiency in a language? So I was speaking about the listening, right? Listening plays an important role in learning a language. So heard language is rich source of language input. So first, when they listen the language, then only they can uh, like repel, like they can speak. So that's why the primary students, they were given nursery rhymes. In rhymes, they have that appropriate or the correct pronunciation. But what our teachers taught is different from what the real rhymes that are played. So there is a big gap between Indian learning context and actual language learning context. If you know all these differentiations, if you know all these things, we can unlearn the things and relearn. So unlearning is difficult for us, right? So it can be like uh, it can happen. We can cope up with that with practicing number of times. Like peer interaction is important. So there is there is a peer interaction between yourself, so you can form a group and you can learn a language. Otherwise there are number of applications. When you can go to iflu website also, there is a material where you can learn a language, a proper English language. I think I will I have that one. I will be telling you in the next class. Okay, if you got some material, so you can learn that one also. So unlearning is different, difficult also. So unlearn it. What we learned as a teachers, we should be able to pronounce properly and correctly, appropriately. So these things are crucial in proficiency development. So more exposure of written language than oral language. You should be more exposed. Read so many articles. Read Hindu paper or read sorry, I'm not taking the name. Not only Hindu paper, can read all English newspapers, or read articles. You can improve your way of speaking. You can improve the way of writing through these things. So I was telling listening is a crucial aspect. So if you have time, watch English movies, then you can able to grasp the native received pronunciation, what is called RP. Okay, any doubts?
No, sir.
Yeah. shall I call it a day?